From the very beginning of history, we are told about a great war that brought a lot of troubles and suffering after its start. The demons fought against a united alliance of several races, humans, elves, and beasts, and soon the continent was covered in a sea of fire, because the demons swept away everything in their path. But thanks to the fierce attacks of the resistance, the war was over and we are shown a lady with red hair. And the guy who was lying nearby, and judging by his face, he was clearly not feeling well right now. All he could do was lie wounded on the ground, while his partner fought the demon and think how unfair life had treated him. The top was completely falling apart and fighting among themselves. There was absolutely no harmony between all types of creatures. And the members of the squad were only engaged in fighting demons using their own methods. The demon standing in front of her said that he praised her incredible strength, but like everyone else, it would soon dry up, and since she doesn't have long left anyway, the demon decides to ease her suffering and immediately send her to the next world. The guy continued to lie on the ground, thinking that now his girlfriend was dead, and the demon just laughed evilly, thinking that he had already won. While he was watching the demon take off his helmet, suddenly they showed us a girl with purple hair. After transforming into a more human form, she simply fell to the floor because her strength was already at its limit. The boy decided that it would be quite advantageous to pretend to be dead, because it turned out to be the queen of demons herself. Looking at the heroine, she simply turned and began to leave, but the main character still could not believe his eyes. While she doesn't see the main character, decides that this is just a great opportunity to deal with the main threat to all living things. Taking the sword of his fallen friend, he was about to strike when suddenly the demon queen asked him to stop pretending to be dead. But this did not stop our boy from being behind her and piercing her with a sword. The stone that she kept on her neck began to glow, and the main character thought that it was a kind of self-destruction. The last thing he remembers is how the boy grabbed this stone, and only then there was pitch darkness. The next thing we were shown was how the bearded man was trying to wake up Darren, who had been sleeping for too long. Why the hell doesn't he wake up at all? The main character calmly wakes up in his bed, and now has absolutely no idea what the hell happened. It was exactly the same in training. The guy tried to perform a kick, but it didn't work. It was the same during lunch, while everyone was enjoying the delicious food. Our boy just sat there and didn't understand what the hell was going on. It was quite difficult to believe that all this time it was a dream or his imagination, because he was definitely fighting with the demon queen. But still it turns out to be true, and Darren simply shouts out that he has become a time traveler. Next, we are shown a girl in a green dress who has been looking at the screaming hero all this time. Has he really gone crazy for screaming like that? She was an army canteen cook named Ray, and she wanted to know what the hell he was doing in the backyard of the canteen. And then he remembers that one of the reasons they lost the war against the army of demons was disrespect for different races. And it turns out that this creature also became one of the reasons for the split in the Union, but until he answered her, the girl became angrier. Is he really not listening to her? Since he had such a unique opportunity, the main character is going to rewrite history a little and start with the problem that was now at hand, when suddenly someone called him. Tyke is a soldier who is higher in rank. Although he and the main character were of the same rank, he was soon due to be promoted. It was immediately clear that he and Ray were in love with each other. While he asked why he was here, he said that he was thinking about her and decided to come. The boy admitted that he looked much better than him, but Tyke didn't fall in love with the main character either. He couldn't understand why the hell his beloved girl was now talking to such a loser as our main character. Of course, the lady immediately tries to come up with an excuse and says that she was just going to go out for a break, and the guy was already there. This idiot begins to think that the main character likes his girlfriend, and then the question arises, why the hell is he constantly hanging around her? That's right. This freak always liked to use strange methods. Just look at the face of our psycho. Tyke also thinks that he is crazy. In the past, the main character would have been scared and would have simply run away, but now everything is different. With such a cheerful face, he begins to tell the girl that her lover is a real killer. While he stood in a stupor, the boy already realized that he was here for a reason. He had to reveal the secret of this idiot to his girlfriend in order to change the course of history. The main character begins to tell the real reason why Tyke gets his promotion. Everyone thinks that it is because he distinguished himself and killed a huge number of demons. Realizing that the matter smells like something fried, the secret asks that the main character change his tone a little. Let him not forget that he is speaking to a senior in rank. But the main character clearly saw that battle with the demons, and it turns out that Tyke simply threw his partner into the mouth of that creature to save his own life. The one who actually defeated the monster was Sir Hackard, and he threatened to punish Tyke and his minions for the murder during that battle. And apparently Tyke got scared and decided to follow Sir Hackard, after which he attacked him from behind and sent him to the next world. Of course, he simply doesn't have time to react to his attack, and that's how he got his promotion. The girl simply stood in horror and refused to believe that Sir Tyke was even capable of such a thing. While Tyke finally asked him to shut up, our main character threatened that he was going to tell the commander personally about everything. Initially, Tyke was just going to beat the guy to such an extent that he would no longer have any desire to tell the commander anything. But this case was completely different because the main character returned from the future and simply punched Taika in the stomach, which left his entire team in shock. The tie gradually began to be carried away, and at parting, the comrades asked the girl not to believe what that crazy person was saying. But now there were vague doubts in her head that her boyfriend could really be as good as she always thought he was. After which time passes, evening has already come and a letter has arrived for our boy. A friend tried to convince him that this could definitely be Tyke's trap, but in this letter it was written that Ray just wanted to see each other. The main character with a happy smile was about to go on his date, and his friend thought that something interesting was starting. Entering the house, the girl is surprised that the main character still came, but she herself invited him to talk. It was true. She was going to discuss a topic that concerned Sir Tyke. To begin with, she asked the boy to sit down at the table and pour tea for him. Suddenly, he noticed that it was quite strange that the girl suddenly decided to make tea for him in such a situation, after which the girl simply fell silent. After being surprised, she couldn't understand what he didn't like, because Ray specifically wanted to look after him. He was absolutely sure that this was Taika's strategy, and most likely the tea was poisoned, but she asked him not to say such things about her boyfriend. Since she really just wanted to treat him to tea, he asks to exchange cups, and she surprisingly calmly agreed and simply changed the cups. In truth, the one who prepared this tea was indeed Sir Tyke. He planned in advance that she could offer him tea, and naive Ray does not even suspect that she can now drink tea with poison. He also notices that Tyke did a pretty good job of convincing her, because despite the fact that she found out about him today, she still continues to call him Sir. But she just exhales angrily and says that this is just a pathetic slander. Her boyfriend simply could not commit such a terrible act. And the main character simply decided to take the pose of a thinker and looked intently at the girl until he saw changes. And she just couldn't understand why the hell he was looking at her so intently. Was it really because she suddenly burped after tea? After that long silence, the boy still asks that this is actually all Tyke's plan, and he asked the girl to lure him here. He believed that Tyke persuaded her to come to their house, and then they would make him out to be a bad person. After which he was supposed to drink tea that contained a potion, and they would have started a sword fight with the girl. But she didn't know all this and even exchanged cups with him. Suddenly her voice becomes very strange, and she tries to justify her boyfriend, but the boy realized that the potion was gradually starting to take effect. Since he is a time traveler, he knows everything. He had to start a sword fight, and then the Taika guys who were waiting in the wings had to attack him. He understood perfectly well what the girl was feeling now after drinking that potion, and even offered her his help, but the main character turns out to be much smarter, and therefore decides to use the potion's effect against him. While the boy had a real sword fight with his girlfriend, Tyke was simply shocked by the loud sounds. Of course, at the signal, people and Tyke himself immediately burst into the house and ask what the hell is going on here. And he just made a face as if he didn't understand anything. These idiots had just broken into the house and were already accusing him of starting a sword fight, but it seemed obvious to them. The guy simply shouts to him that whoever broke into this house would still think that he is the last idiot who is fighting with his girlfriend, and he was not going to stop the fight. Looking at his grin, the guys decide to teach the main character a little lesson and attack him at once. Only a few seconds passed and all three guys were already lying on the floor unconscious. It seems that our hero is the real boss of this rocking chair, and the girl generally stood in shock and did not even know that Darren was so strong. But it turns out that the rivals are not over yet, and several more knights enter the house. In addition to the knights, there was also their captain, a beautiful blonde named Ariana. Catherine. She was an incredible warrior who inherited fencing skills from her father, after which she became the youngest female captain of the knights. While the main character went to greet her, Ray stood in shock and did not understand why such a high-ranking person needed to be in such a place. The girl only reports that, as they reported, there really was a bunch of unpleasant men who staged a pogrom. It turns out that this was all a cunning plan of the protagonist, who had already notified the knights in advance that such an incident would occur, which is why they staged such a scene. While Tyke and his friends were sitting in the bushes and watching what was happening in the house, behind them all this time, there was a royal army that was already watching them. Suddenly, Tyke still wakes up with a terrible headache as if after a cool party, and cannot understand why the hell the captain of the knights is in their house. But she didn't really intend to deal with all this. The girl simply gave the order for these idiots to be detained as soon as possible. He tried to the last to pretend as if he didn't understand the reason why they were being detained. Finally, he says that they are making a mistake, and in fact they need to detain the main character, but one of the knights calls him a scumbag. How dare he show disrespect to Captain Catherine? After she heard the story of the main character, she immediately began an investigation, and it showed that more than 20 people were killed by the sword of an ally and not an enemy. One of the knights also brings a cup containing a magic potion, so the blonde believes that there is enough evidence to detain these guys, especially considering that they tried to frame Darren as the culprit using the magic potion. Suddenly, Tyke just loses his nerve and starts yelling that, in fact, it's all a setup and the main character is to blame for everything. But the knights don't even let him move and ask him to follow them. But by some miracle, this idiot escapes from their hands and begins to run towards the commander. I wonder if he really thinks that he can defeat her with his hands tied. She only thought that if he was caught, he would definitely receive the death penalty. At least she swears that she would finish him off on her own within 2 years. Having made a very elegant kick, the girl knocks him out and then asks her knights to clean up the trash a little. While they were taking Taika away, the main character, for some reason, called the commander before leaving. It turns out that the guy was just wondering what they would do with these guys. She just says that first they will need to figure out whether what they were told about them is true. And if their words are confirmed, then they will receive the death penalty. The main character only asked that they be careful on the way back, and she left silently. Since now they are the only ones left here, the boy thinks that they can finally calmly have a sword fight and not worry. But Ray didn't understand why they had to fight now. Yes, it didn't matter to him anymore. The girl drank a magic potion and the only thing she could do now was fight, so she needed to take advantage of this opportunity. And the main character knows perfectly well what will happen in the future. It turns out that after she became a saint, she began to find fault with people and generally behave like a small child. So now the boy didn't care. In the end, she would still become a bitch, and now he could please himself with a cool sword fight. But it seems that the main character was looking for copper and found gold, because he couldn't even think that she could turn out to be such a cool warrior. But she warned him not to fight at full strength, because she's still a girl. She understood perfectly well that she would not be able to withstand a long sword fight, much less against such a strong opponent as our boy. Well, it turns out that the girl simply ran out of strength, and now she had to think about how to start the second round of the battle. He simply could not believe that she had lost all her strength from ordinary blows, but she had warned him not to fight at full strength. The main character was just thinking about the belt of an ideal opponent to train his fencing skills, but so far there was no one except Ray, so she became his sparring partner. But it seems that she does not really like battles. But she turns out to have the ability to quickly restore her strength, and has already passed the second round in which her strength ran out again. Now the guy is completely sure that she is unique, because she can restore strength faster than other warriors. In such cases, the main character believes that he cannot restrain his strength and use it to the maximum. While she was simply shocked by his fencing skills, he tried to teach her a lesson. And he himself, it turns out, was also well prepared and therefore grabbed his best sword, but she was shocked because she had never staged a battle with real swords. But it didn't matter to him what the lady was worried about, because he just wanted to fight and hone his combat skills. As expected, but for the first time she held a real sword in her hands. But it's okay. He already wanted to start the battle as soon as possible, but she asked him not to fight at full strength. But he really couldn't hide his true strength, because she was simply an excellent warrior who could fight with him on equal terms, albeit for a short time. But of course, as in previous rounds, she simply could not fully fight, and soon admitted defeat, and the main character began to laugh at her. As a parting, he decides to give her a trophy and thinks that it's just a great gift, but she doesn't understand anything about what's going on and why he's sharing his trophies from the battle. The girl was terribly angry with him, and only said that if the boy had already finished the battle, then he could leave, but the main character did not understand what she meant. No matter how cool the battle they just had, the guy still hasn't finished his training, so Ray will have to be his punching bag for a while longer. Afterwards, we are shown a guy who returns back to that house. It turns out that he forgot a very important thing for himself, and now considered himself a real bungler. He just knocked on the door, hoping that no one would take him, but our guys were already scared that someone had broken into the house. Yes, it seems like a terribly familiar face, but the guy just stood and watched as they fought. The main character also looked at him and only now realized that in this recreation area, no one closes the doors. After which the guy seems to pretend that he cannot open the door. It seems that it is already too old to open so easily. Walking into the house, he was strangely surprised that there was absolutely no one here. How good it was that the main character used his skills as a true ninja and hid behind the counter. While the guy who came was thinking that the last visitor simply forgot to turn off the light, the girl asked this idiot to behave a little more quietly. She understood, unlike the main character, that if they started a battle they would definitely be caught. But he somehow didn't care about it. Of course, the boy clearly hears those strange sounds coming from behind the counter. But this is just the strange box that he was looking for. The boy was so glad that no one took his thing, and the lady thought that it was too risky to organize a battle without using armor. While they were fighting there, the guy told himself that he had to handle this box more carefully because he was going to give it to Ray after she was recognized. Suddenly, the girl began to fight much stronger than before, and the main character was so happy about this. Did she really start to like battles? But in reality, she was just afraid that someone would see that they were fighting. But the main character asked her not to deceive her because she was more glad that she was fighting than scared by the presence of some guy in the house. Well, finally, the battle is coming to an end, and our boy once again emerged victorious, although this time she was much stronger than before. Darren decides to see if the guy who came to them has left, but the girl asked him not to leave. It turns out that she was terribly angry with him because he still staged a battle with real swords and didn't even bring armor. While the main character was glad that he was so cool and could fight even without armor, she tried to explain that she meant something completely different. He didn't understand at all that she didn't like it, because she just had to ask him for one battle, so they immediately began to fight. While she was trying to explain to him that all this was not true, the main character decided that they too needed to have a final battle in order to understand which of them was truly strong. But just what the hell, the main character again used a real sword without using armor. If suddenly they start fighting seriously, they will not do without serious injuries. And this idiot is not even going to hold back his real strength and just throws a lot of attacks at the girl. Looking at how she simply could not defeat him, he wanted to continue the battle even more. But she asked him not to talk nonsense because she was not even going to lose to such an idiot. He only asked again that the girl not deceive him, because she herself likes the fact that they are fighting, so let her show him everything she is capable of in battle. Her several times, but this time everything is different. During all the battles, she became much stronger, and that is why he became interested in fighting with her. But of course, she simply has no chance of winning. It turns out that he used his most powerful technique, and now she has lost consciousness from the damage. Yes, a lot of time has passed. The girl managed to lose consciousness many more times and regain her strength again, but they still did not stop the battle. The boy was just laughing, thinking that soon the battle would end once again. I hope that the girl has a good doctor because the wounds will be very serious. Of course, she has a cool doctor, but she just asked him to warn her when he was about to carry out a special attack. Of course. He doesn't care at all what the lady tells him, and soon another special attack was carried out, and now she's knocked out again. But this time everything was not so simple, because after so many battles, the girl developed an interest in battles, and she herself offered to conduct training. Here she is, the real romance of warriors. The boy asked her permission to organize the coolest battle that ever happened. After which the battle took a completely different turn. Ray became much stronger and could now withstand his attacks, and the guy who did not want to concede was already fighting at full strength. He only told her that she was the best opponent he had, but she was too scared that she might lose. The next chapter shows us the already frightened look of the girl. It seems that the main character overdid it, and now she was afraid of his incredible strength. The battle was not over yet, and both of them were at the limit of their capabilities. The girl was only thinking about how to survive in this battle, while the main character uses his strongest technique. But still the boy proves his title of the strongest, just like Gojo Satoru, although during all this time the lady has become much stronger than before. Well, it seems that she finally found her limit, and simply could not move after such a battle. And the boy was only thinking about the fact that he was finally able to find such a tough opponent. Yes, it seems that the main character's training was too brutal, but it's okay because this is the only way to become much stronger. 2 whole days had passed since that night, and the blonde was telling the main character that it was thanks to what he told them that they could mitigate the unjust death of Hakard and the infantry. She just says she's Ariana Catherine, and as the commander of the Golden Knights, she personally expresses her gratitude to him. And she would also like to personally reward him. Maybe there is something that he wants, now our boy is even thinking about it. She promises that she will try to do everything she can, but will repay him for his valor. Meanwhile, the boy thought that if he could describe this lady, he would say that she is a noble and majestic woman. A knight who values justice, and no one dared to compare with her strength. And she also had one peculiarity, and the boy even thought that if he had the opportunity to make a wish from her, he would not have thought about the choice for a long time. While the boy was thinking about what to wish for, a girl with blue hair noticed the main character and thought that he was a real idiot. But the blonde couldn't understand what happened. Why she was so angry, by the way. The girl with blue hair is called Rise. But she didn't answer her. It turns out that Rise was a privileged female knight who was the second in command of the Golden Eagle. Her devotion to Ariana was very strong, and she was even more known for her terribly prickly character. The boy simply pretended that he was still thinking about his desire, but in fact, he could not understand how she noticed him. And then the main character still comes up with the most unexpected wish. Even you would not have been able to guess. He asks Ariana to personally train him. It turns out that all this time, the guy just wanted to become stronger. He already had experience in battles from his past life, but the blonde did not understand why he had such a desire. Although he was quite strong, this strength was not enough to change the future. If she became his teacher, then the likelihood of changing the future would be much higher. Still, Ariana says that she will think about his request, but Rice did not understand why she agreed to take on a new student. After which the action moves to Ray's house, and some guy of some kind proposes to her. It seems that he is trying to put pressure on Pity, and says that he gave 3 of his salaries for this ring. Please let her say yes. But as in other mangas, the boy turns out to be a loser, and it turns out that she already likes someone else. Of course, he was simply in shock because only recently her husband had been executed, and she already liked someone. He still tries to find out who the hell this is, but Ray somehow finds it difficult to answer this question. Realizing that she won't be able to answer it, she simply shouts out that it's a secret, which scares our boy, after which the main character returns to this house, and we hear strange sounds like a little girl crying. But no, it turns out that idiot whose feelings were simply rejected, and now he returns home in tears. Following him, Ray comes out and asks what brought Darren to her home, but it seems that he has not yet recovered from the shock of seeing that guy. And the boy, it turns out, managed to come up with a nickname for her that will now infuriate her for the rest of her life. Yes, she really starts to get angry, and our boy seems very pleased with himself. He's a damn joker. Still, he decides to change the subject and says that he didn't come here just to laugh at her nickname. He urgently needed to tell her something. He only asked the girl to bring his food separately from now on, but she didn't understand why. And the main character says that now he will train with Mrs. Ariana, and therefore he will not have much time. She just starts to get offended and asks why the guy just can't bring his own food. But he turns out to be not verbose and says that he will train with her every time the girl brings him food. She just pushes him and says that she is not going to train. Why the hell did he even come here? After standing silently for a while, the girl still asks if he likes various sandwiches. Of course, the guy can't live without his stupid jokes and says that she still wants to train with him. Since they agreed that she would bring him sandwiches for training, he is about to leave and once again calls her a special nickname. It seems that she will soon run out of nerves to tolerate this idiot. And so our boy was walking around the city and decided to find out where Tyke managed to find that damn potion. Such strong potions cannot be found in the human world, but the one Taika had was strong even in the smallest quantities. Most likely it had something to do with demons, and therefore the main character had to find out the whole truth. The guy was surprised to see Darren here, but he just says that he wants to know some details about Tyke's case. They sat down and he began to tell me that a few days ago he met with Taika's group and, as was already clear, he wanted to catch him. But it didn't work out. Many people said that he secretly bought various drinks, but he was completely sure that he went somewhere else. This street was called Night, and Tyke bargained there with a man who wore a black cloak. That merchant talked about voodoo dolls, various potions that instantly send you to the next world, and much more. She has already sold a lot of things that were very difficult to get, and now the main character is wondering what he bought from her. The boy only asked him for forgiveness, but he actually didn't know anything about it. And now the main character is a little upset because he didn't learn a lot of new information. He simply says thank you to the boy, but he warns him that everything said is one big secret. If he suddenly tells someone else about this, he will be punished, but the main character asks him not to worry. And yet now he can become serious again. The boy received very valuable information from his roommate Tyke, and now he has a lead on the case. The source of that strange potion that Tyke used was that strange seller who sold it to him. It is for this reason that our main character came to the night street to find a strange merchant. But we all understand perfectly well that it was simply impossible to find such a merchant because he would not just appear before his eyes. But no. Everything turns out to be much simpler than it seems at first glance, and a strange woman in a black cloak was just walking down the street. What a coincidence. And the girl turns out to be quite beautiful, and it seemed to me alone that she had teeth like a vampire. It turns out that not only the main character, but also the guards were looking for her, so now the real chase must begin. The chase turns out to be short-lived because on her way she encountered an obstacle, a wall. The situation is certainly not the best. On one side there are guards, and on the other, there is a huge wall that cannot be bypassed. The lady turns out to be too aggressive and therefore fights off the guard's hand. Then they politely ask to check her documents. But she only says that she doesn't have it because she lost her ID. Since she didn't have a passport, the guys asked the lady to take off her damn hood so that they could at least establish her identity, but she didn't like this idea. It turns out they knew about the merchant, and our guy was standing around the corner all this time. And while you are wondering about the continuation, we are finishing the video. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and like, so that the new part will come out soon.